The reading of the will wasn't a reading at all. It was a coronation. Elias sat in the plush leather chair of the law firm's conference room, his hands folded in his lap, watching his older brother, Marcus. Marcus didn't look like a man mourning the loss of his parents. He looked like a man closing a merger. He checked his Rolex, adjusted his Italian silk tie, and tapped his fingers impatiently on the mahogany table. "Let's get this over with, shall we?" Marcus said, his voice smooth and devoid of any real emotion. "I have a flight to Zurich at 6. Mr. Henderson, the family attorney who had aged 20 years since Elias last saw him, looked over his spectacles with a pitying glance at Elias. "Very well. As per the amendment made 6 months ago, shortly before your father's passing." Elias flinched. He hadn't known about an amendment. He had been the one driving Dad to chemotherapy, the one changing Mom's bedsheets when the dementia made her forget where the bathroom was. Marcus had been in New York or London or Tokyo, sending expensive flower arrangements and the occasional brief, awkward FaceTime call. The entirety of the estate, including the primary residence on Oak Hill, the investment portfolio, the vintage car collection, and all liquid assets, are to be placed in a trust for the sole benefit of Marcus Sterling. The room went silent. Elias felt a ringing in his ears. It wasn't about the money. He was a high school history teacher. He lived simply. But the erasure. It was as if his years of caretaking, of holding their hands while they took their last breaths, had never happened. "And for Elias?" Mr. Henderson's voice trembled slightly. "Ah, yes," Marcus interjected, leaning forward with a shark-like grin. "I and Dad discussed this. Elias is sentimental. He likes the old stuff, the memories." Mr. Henderson read from the document. "To Elias Sterling, I leave the personal contents of the attic and the basement, provided they are removed within 7 days of this reading. Any items remaining after that period will be disposed of by the estate." Marcus stood up, buttoning his jacket. "See, I'm generous. You get the nostalgia, Eli. I get the headache of managing the assets. You have until Sunday to get your junk out. I've got a demolition crew coming Monday. We're gutting the place to flip it." "Gutting it?" Elias whispered, finding his voice. "That house it's our history." "It's a teardown in a prime zip code. Don't be dramatic. Bring a truck. There's a lot of garbage up there." The house smelled of stale lavender and sickness, a ghost of the vibrant home it used to be. For 3 days, Elias worked in the stifling heat of July, coughing through clouds of dust. He wasn't looking for treasure, he was looking for closure. He filled garbage bags with moth-eaten coats and broken Christmas ornaments. He found his mother's old recipe box and cried over a card for Sunday pot roast. He found his father's old fishing tackle, rusted and useless, but kept it anyway. Downstairs, Marcus was a whirlwind of aggressive efficiency. He had appraisers coming in and out, tagging the few pieces of furniture he deemed valuable, the grand piano, the antique sideboard, and sneering at the rest. He ignored Elias, stepping around him as if he were part of the debris. "Move it, Eli," Marcus snapped on Saturday afternoon, stepping over a pile of old yearbooks Elias had stacked in the hallway. "The stagers are coming tomorrow. If this trash isn't gone, I'm calling a dumpster company and billing you for it." "I'm going as fast as I can," Elias said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I just have the far corner of the attic left." "The crawl space?" Marcus laughed. "Dad threw everything useless back there. Broken radios, old tax returns. Just leave it. Save yourself the back pain." But Elias couldn't. That was where the memories were. He crawled into the deepest recess of the attic, a cramped triangular space under the eaves where the insulation was peeling. It was suffocatingly hot. In the shadows, pushed behind a stack of water-damaged National Geographics, was a plain, battered cardboard box. It was taped shut with yellowing masking tape, and on the side, in his father's jagged handwriting, was scrawled, "Junk for the boys?" The question mark broke Elias's heart. His father probably meant to show them whatever was inside years ago, but life and Marcus's career and the illness had gotten in the way. Elias dragged the box out. It wasn't heavy. He almost left it, thinking it was probably just old toys or schoolwork, but the "For the Boys" inscription made him pause. He carried it downstairs, past Marcus, who was on a call yelling about market caps, and loaded it into the back of his rusty Subaru Forester along with the rest of his inheritance. It was Sunday night in his small, quiet apartment when Elias finally opened the box. He cut the tape with a kitchen knife. Inside, wrapped in layers of old newspaper from 1952, were comic books. Elias smiled. He remembered his dad talking about how he used to spend his allowance at the corner store on funny books before his own father made him throw them out to focus on his studies. Apparently, he hadn't thrown them all out. Elias picked up the top one. The cover was bright, impossibly bright for its age. A man in a blue suit and red cape lifting a green car. Action Comics #1. Elias frowned. He was a history teacher. He knew pop culture, but he wasn't a collector. Still, he knew that cover. Everyone knew that cover. Reprint, he muttered to himself. Must be a nostalgia reprint from the 80s. He picked up the next one, a dark figure swinging on a rope. Detective Comics #27. Then Superman #1. Batman #1. Marvel Comics #1. There were 50 of them, all Golden Age, all looking like they had been bought, read once gently, and then hermetically sealed in this dark, dry box for 70 years. Elias pulled out his phone and Googled Action Comics #1 reprint identification. He looked for the telltale signs of a fake, the glossy paper, the barcode, the facsimile print. The paper in his hands was newsprint. It smelled of vanilla and old lignin. There was no barcode. The price on the cover was 10 cents. His hands started to shake. He carefully, terrifyingly carefully, placed the comic back in the box and closed the lid. He didn't sleep that night. He sat in a chair facing the box, holding a baseball bat as if Marcus might burst through the door. Monday morning, Elias called him sick to school. He drove 2 hours to the city to an auction house he had researched online, a place that specialized in high-grade investment collectibles. He met with a specialist named Sarah, a woman with white gloves and a magnifying loupe attached to her glasses. When Elias opened the box on her table, she didn't laugh, she didn't speak, she stopped breathing. "Mr. Sterling?" she whispered after 10 minutes of silence, looking up from the Action Comics #1. "Did you touch the pages?" "Only the cover, gently." "Good. Don't touch them again." She took off her glasses, her eyes wide. "I need to verify this with my head grader, but if these are real and they appear to be unrestored, original owner copies, are they worth anything?" Elias asked, thinking maybe he could pay off his credit card debt, maybe fix the Subaru. Sarah looked at him like he had just asked if the sun was hot. "Mr. Sterling, the last copy of Action Comics #1 in this condition sold for over $3 million. You have the Holy Grail here. And the rest? The Detective #27, the Batman #1, Marvel Comics #1? This box, this is the GDP of a small country." Elias sat down. The room spun. "Millions?" "Tens of millions," Sarah corrected, conservatively. The auction made international news 3 months later. The Sterling collection was hailed as the most significant find in comic book history. Elias didn't attend the auction. He watched the live stream from a beach house in Costa Rica he had rented for the month. He watched as Action Comics #1 hammered at $4.2 million. He watched the total for the box climb past $15 million. His phone had been blowing up for weeks. Marcus. First, it was congratulatory texts. "Amazing find, little brother. We need to talk about tax strategy." Then, confusing texts. "The lawyer says we need to meet. There are estate implications." Then, threatening texts. "You stole those from the house. That box was part of the estate. I'm suing." Elias finally answered the phone the day the check cleared. "You thief!" Marcus screamed, his voice cracking. "That box was in my house, in my attic. You walked out with $15 million of my assets." "Correction," Elias said, his voice calm, sipping a fresh lime juice. "I walked out with the contents of the attic, as per the will." "The lawyer said personal effects, junk, not investment assets." Actually, Elias said, pulling up the email Marcus had sent him during the cleanout, you specifically called it garbage. You told me, and I quote, if this trash isn't gone, I'm billing you. You defined the value, Marcus. You deemed it trash. I removed the trash. The fact that the trash turned out to be gold isn't theft. It's, what did you call it? A headache you didn't want to manage. I will bury you in lawsuits, Elias screamed, his voice cracking. I will drain every cent of that money in court costs. You can try, Elias said, but I've already spoken to Mr. Henderson. He remembers the conversation where you explicitly waived your right to inspect the attic contents because you didn't want to get your suit dirty. It's on the record. You were too busy counting the pennies in the bank account to look at the millions in the cardboard box. Elias hung up. He looked out at the ocean, thinking of his dad. He realized his father knew exactly what he was doing.